All right, Griffin, let's get into it here. We've got games starting early in the day, tomorrow, all throughout the day here. And we'll start it off here with the first game on the board. It will go to my part of the world, a very early start. I believe it is a 2:32 Eastern first pitch between the Houston Astros. They are going to be hosting the Detroit Tigers in this wild card series. Obviously, the Astros did win the AL West. The Tigers clinched a playoff spot in that AL wild card and now travel to Houston. A bit of a storyline here, maybe not. AJ Hinch going up against his former team that he managed a couple seasons ago. Seems like a little further than that. But the Detroit Tigers making their first postseason appearance in 10 years. Let's start here with game one, and then we can get into the series for this matchup here. But right now, it is going to be Tarek Skubal getting the start here for the Detroit Tigers in game one. It'll be Framber Valdez for the Houston Astros. Astros are a minus 142 home favorite, plus 130 on the money line for the Detroit Tigers, and the total is set at 6.5 in this game here. Griffin, a heavy vig on the under in this game here as well at minus 125 here. But what are your thoughts on game one between the Tigers and the Astros?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a great matchup. Maybe you could argue this might be the best in the AL and maybe the best of the entire wild card round. I'm actually really disappointed because I was really hoping the Tigers would go to Baltimore and I was going to pick them to win that series and wouldn't even have thought twice about it. Houston's a little bit different of a story. Do you have an update on Yordan Alvarez by any chance?
So I did see that he was running bases, did get in some work here, and it seems like he, if anything, at minimum, maybe he misses game one, but he should be good to go in this series for the Astros.
Well, that is significant because if he misses game one, unfortunately, in watching this last week of baseball, I was very enamored with it and very deep into it. That Astros lineup looked a lot different without him in there.
Yeah.
Kyle Tucker's return has been huge and kind of coincided with Alvarez getting hurt. Seemed like I would imagine it probably means Alvarez will only play DH, but that's probably better for under and for any sort of defense that Houston will be playing, though. I'm not really sure you need to do much in short third base, it seems like, in left field in front of those Crawford boxes. But I mean, Scubal's been awesome. He's like the only Tigers starter that doesn't need to, I think, like turn into a bullpen game. And that's going to be very interesting. This is going to be a traditional baseball game. Maybe that's why we see a total at 6.5, though that's tiny. Certainly playoff games with very quick leashes on pitchers, though I think game one a lot longer of a leash than game two, especially for a team that's trailing one nothing with the season on the line. But great pitching matchup. I don't have much fun betting against Framber Valdez. I literally look to back him as a cheap favorite or as a road underdog if the rare occasion that occurs. And it's pretty much always on my card. So it kind of feels weird for me, though I am talking right now in a Tigers polo. Figured that would be apropos for this episode, and it was actually clean. So there we go. I think Tarek Skubal, before I give this back to you, he's the scariest pitcher, I think, in playoffs. So I like I feel like Houston skews a little bit better against right-handed pitchers. Or excuse me, it's left-handed pitchers because they have a lot of great righties, especially with Yordan Alvarez not in the lineup.
Yeah.
But I don't have a ton of like win-loss record on that. And it's also hard to really bottle what the Astros did because they were so bad for the first month or two of the season and got the Mariners manager fired for outperforming expectations before the incredible collapse. But this is going to be a dogfight of a series. I wouldn't be shocked if it goes 3 games. And AJ Hinch, it might not matter so much because, I mean, he kind of was the fall guy. So I feel like there should be a lot of Astros that are apologizing to him for basically losing his job and letting them keep the hunk of metal, as Rob Manfred once called it, the World Series trophy. But to me, it seems that the Tigers, I mean, I don't really trust their offense at all, but and especially not against Framber Valdez, but I do trust their pitching. And I feel like Houston's been leaking a little bit of oil out of that bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that's a big question mark. And I know throughout the season, we talked a lot about how bad the Astros bullpen had been, especially at the beginning of the year. They did find a little bit of form in the latter part of the year, did the Astros. But again, I still just don't trust them going into this postseason. And maybe they proved me wrong, which they'll probably have to if they want to get back to the at least at minimum the ALCS for what I think was now maybe a 7th to 8th straight year for this Astros team. But I think the one thing about this game for the Tigers is that you mentioned that Tarek Skubal is by far the best pitcher, not only on this roster, but probably this season of all the pitchers that are qualified for the postseason here. And I think, is this a must-win game for the Tigers behind their best pitcher to have a chance to win this series? I think that answer for me is yes. But again, when you talk about this series overall, and at least in game one, that the Tigers are returning to the postseason after 10 years, and with the Astros just having all that championship experience and let alone playoff experience, I mean, they've done very well for themselves, specifically in the wild card rounds, over the past several seasons here. And you mentioned, right, Framber Valdez has been absolutely fantastic for this team, especially after the All-Star break. Just looking at some of the numbers you mentioned for the left-handed pitching, the Astros 25-21 against left-handed pitching, and the Detroit Tigers are 21-12. But I went and looked a little bit deeper at some of the numbers as far as offensive statistical categories against left-handed pitching, and Detroit was pretty much in the bottom of the league and well below average against left-handed pitching. And I just really like the form that Framber Valdez is in. It'll be telling about where these two starters are going to be, especially in the first couple of innings here, that if they're both able to settle in, this game may see a 2-1, very, very low scoring game. I wish this total was at 7 here in this game here, Griffin, but again, that's 6.5. It just kind of makes me nervous that, especially with that back end of the bullpen for the Astros, I mean, they could really push it over the total and give up a run slate. So I think as far as this game, I do like the Astros, at least in the first 5 innings. If you want to take a look at the run line in the first 5 innings, or the money line in the first 5 innings, I just kind of want to take the bullpen out of it for the Astros. But again, I wouldn't be surprised, Griffin, if that Framber Valdez and both Tarek Skubal went 7 innings in this game here, because I think it's game one. Again, you get all that momentum, and then you win game one, you just got to win one of the next 2 games here. I hate to sound biased. I hate to sound it, but I think that experience for the Astros in this game here, Griffin, I do like them to win this game one, at least between these two squads here.
Yeah, so I haven't given you any picks yet, I guess. Oops, I went on for probably 5 minutes and still haven't even said anything. To your point, yes, the Tigers have not been here. That can go really poorly at times, but I feel like sometimes it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I do think that it's a benefit for Houston, as well as that series in their home ballpark, which also means they get to play literally 3 games to the last at bat. That's a big deal, and unfortunately, that to me says that the Tigers need to either build some leads or do something to try to extend. Because unfortunately, if it comes down to the 9th inning, 10th inning, we have different extra innings rules. Thank God, no man for men exist, which is great for an under, I gotta say. And I see you laughing. I'm not going to get into my umpire stuff, but there was some bad stuff even on Sunday, last day of the season. Didn't see so much on Monday, but I was paying it pretty close attention, but I think I had maybe just told myself no more tweets about umpires for at least 6 more months. But anyway, we're back. So the Tigers money line is interesting to me. I think it's obvious probably I was going to say that because I generally don't look much above like a -130 on a home team, and don't pretty much allergic to road favorites at this point in my life. I'd love to come back to the dark side, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Skubal to me at that price, we haven't seen it in a while. He was pretty much favored in most starts, I think, down the stretch. There's definitely some pause that I have for losing to the White Sox the last 2 games that really put them in Houston for a much harder series than going to Baltimore, which I think would have been really beneficial. And I'm still upset at the Tigers for that. And I guess sort of upset at the Royals for somehow beating the Braves, who needed to win on Sunday, but clearly not that much. I think the under 6.5, the problem for me is, like, as you mentioned, there are some questions about the Astros bullpen. There's still plenty of questions about the Tigers. They've never been here and done this. They got great arms back there. AJ Hinch is a very good manager. I think he will show to be a better manager than what it's not Grifol, because he got fired from the White Sox. Who's the Joe Espada, I think, from the Astros?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know that he's done enough. Like, I don't know that I know enough about him taking over for Dusty Baker, I think, this season. So this is new for him too.
Yeah.
I don't know how much managers matter in Major League Baseball at this point in the year of our Lord 2024, but with a 6.5 total, it can go really wrong, even with 2 great starts that go 7 innings from both starters. I would expect most of these guys, I mean, maybe not these two because they're pretty much workhorses at this point. Maybe we see a little bit quicker of a pull, but I would expect that for other starters than these two.
Yeah.
But the problem is a 3-3 game and you're a loser if you're playing under. So, and I'm guessing I can click on the first five number, but I would assume the total is, I mean,
Three.
it's three.
Yeah.
Like, the problem with first five totals, it sounds great because there's no extra innings you have to worry about that. The game doesn't have to end 0-0 is perfect, the like literal dream scenario. But like if you think about it, two guys throwing 5 innings and giving up 1.5 runs each would be the split in this total, but one for Valdez and two for Skubal. I mean, that's a very good start, like 3.60 ERA for the 2 runs allowed in 5 innings, and like better than, I mean, that's like, it's kind of hard. We don't see a lot of sub 3 ERAs in this world for a 5 innings 1 run allowed for Valdez. So like it's going to be hard. I think there's, I mean, if you get a 3.5 here, I just don't really see that coming. And certainly getting even money right now on under 3 in the first five is probably the way I'd go if you're trying to play under the total.
Yeah.
But I think I'm more interested in the Tigers side as opposed to and it's not a guarantee by any means to win. And if you're in the ninth inning or worse, 10th inning, probably a bigger underdog than that with Jason Foley and whoever's pitching for the Tigers at that point, Bo Brisky. But like, I think there's a lot of value because I feel like Framber, like as good as he's been this year, I feel like a lot of starts when I've backed him and I feel like I've done very well with him. He's been really not as great as I remember. I don't know if you've noticed that in
Yeah.
Houston and watching a lot of his starts that maybe he hasn't, like he still has the name value, though the odds, I feel like the market hasn't really treated him with that much respect this year as I would have, and that's why I was on him so much. But I feel like there's something missing a little bit, and Framber does have some starts that you're like, that's not very Framber-like. And against Tarek Skubal, you can't do that.
And I think the one thing about with Valdez is that, I mean, you take a look at the pre and post All Star break numbers. 16 starts before the All Star breaks, 8-5 with a 3.66 ERA. Post All Star break, 12 starts, 7-2 with a 1.96 ERA. I trust Valdez more at Minute Maid Park in the juice box, and I mean his numbers on the road weren't terrible, but at home this season, 15 starts, 9-2, 9-2 with a 2.53 ERA for Framber Valdez there. So yeah, I know what you're getting at with Framber Valdez, that there seems like that there's something missing with him, but I think when the lights are on the brightest, and again in a situation where he's been before for this Astros teams multiple times, I think that he can definitely live up to those expectations in this game here. As far as the series goes here, Griffin, we're looking at the Astros as a minus 175 a favorite in this series, plus 150 for the Detroit Tigers for this AL wildcard series. I know you like the Tigers in the game one, but do you have them beating the Astros to advance to the divisional round series?
I'm tempted. I don't like, it's a pretty big price, especially as these series go. It's the biggest one that I'm looking at currently.
Yeah.
I feel like that this is not the draw I was really hoping for. And I mean, the Astros, I was asked, I think when I went to a Rangers game about a month ago, who's your World Series prediction? And I said Astros Padres. And I was like, that's probably not the consensus, but I think the Astros, I mean, they sort of figured it out, won the division going away. I guess it came down to the final week, but I'm sure they would have taken that being
Yeah.
10 games back earlier in the year. It feels like the winner of the series is a really good chance moving forward. I think it's going to be a bridge a little bit too far for the Tigers, though the price is certainly right if you think they take game one to even sell out and back the Astros to win the series if they were trailing 1-0 or something like that. But I feel like you better go into, if you're playing a series price, planning to hedge or do something in that way, you better like state that to yourself going into it, because you don't want to have one of those panic situations. And I always believe hedging is for gardeners.
Yeah, I think that again, for at least for the series, I know the price is a little steep on this Astros team, and I think rightfully so it's warranted for everything that we just mentioned about the playoff experience here. But I just do find it. I think that the Astros find a way to get it done. I think that I feel like Tigers are playing with a little bit of house money, and maybe expectations where the Astros, again, it just seems like automatic. They're always in that American League championship series, for many, many years now. But I think they will get the job done here against the Detroit Tigers.